President Trump's trade war with China continues to escalate. Yesterday, leaders in Beijing warned other countries not to work with the U.S. to restrict trade to China. This comes after Bloomberg reported that President Trump would ease or remove tariffs for countries that work with the U.S. to sabotage trade with China. Back and forth, back and forth. How far will this trade war with China go? When will one or both sides concede? And how will this affect us right here at home? To discuss, we welcome a dear friend to our station, Ed Hers. He's an energy fellow in the Department of Economics at the University of Houston. Ed, good to see you again.
Thank you, Ernie.
Hello, Ed.
Frank.
So how bad's it going to get?
It's going to get worse. And so
Why is that?
We've already seen steel prices jump across Texas. The oil patch started hoarding tubulars as soon as President Trump was elected. The domestic producers have increased their prices up to that 25%. You know, this is not so much a trade war as it is a tax war. Mm-hmm. And the Trump administration is applying these tariffs, and quite honestly, it's a tax. There is no way we can bring this kind of manufacturing intensity, level, and investment back into the borders of the United States during his term. We don't have the equipment. We don't have the capital equipment to do it. We may not actually have the academic and professional expertise to do it without bringing in workers from India, workers from China. You know, we don't have that many steel mills left. We don't have the size and scope and scale that's required.
Mm-hmm. I want to step out a little bit to the whole back and forth tit for tat that's going on, with the reporting being that the U.S. will ease off on tariffs if people don't support China, and that China saying, well, you know, we'll work with you if you don't support the U.S. in this. To understand all of that, I think what I need to know is, what is the relationship with China in the southeast region of the globe? And do they have a good trade relationship with other? Because I almost feel as though for the Trump policy to work, they have to have bad relations. China has to have bad relationships with everyone.
Yeah, so it appears that the Trump administration is trying to divide and conquer and isolate China. But China has spent the last 3 decades becoming an integral part of its neighbors' economies. During the first Trump administration, Trump piled on tariffs on top of China. These were counteracted by China devaluing its currency, essentially offsetting that increased tax, and also by U.S. manufacturers moving some of their manufacturing out of China, moving it to Thailand, Malaysia, and Mexico. And that was the Trump administration's latest salvo, if you will, against those nations. You know, this manufacturing expertise with the inexpensive labor is what pushed China to the forefront. But now it's their technical expertise. We've always had an intellectual property issue with China. China doesn't respect trademarks and patents and those types of IP. And so they can make stuff a whole lot less expensively than we can.
But if the trade partners with China step back from their relationship with China, who fills that void? We can't in the U.S.
No, we can't. And they're not going to step back. And everybody in the global market sees that. That's why the dollar is down over 5% against other currencies, and why the price of gold, for example, is up. People are leaving the U.S. economy and selling their U.S. dollar-denominated assets as quickly as they can.
People forget that COVID came from Wuhan, China, because of the huge manufacturing partnership we have with China. And it also spread to Italy. But it was all about fashion and all. I think every sneaker we wear comes from China or very close to it, Southeast Asia, along with tons of clothing. It seems like every time I get something from Amazon, it's coming from China.
Yep. Yeah. Very few shirts and shoes are made in the United States anymore.
Even as we've seen Trump paraphernalia, where you see the Make America Great hats and all that stuff, his ties made in China.
Yes.
Well, you know, Beijing just recently put out that they are warning countries against colluding with the U.S. to restrict trade with China. Do you think other countries will fall suit to China?
I think they're going to stay friendly with China. China, if we do cut off Chinese imports, which is a huge amount of business for us, they're going to be looking for other markets to sell into. And so one of the things that we've seen already in the oil patch, Rystad Energy had a column on this today, the oil field services companies in the U.S. are unable to source equipment out of China right now. And so they would bring it in here and then resell it across the Middle East, North Africa. Well, now China's going to go direct. They don't have any reason to go through Halliburton or Schlumberger or Baker Hughes here in town. And so this is going to be a reordering of trade routes across the globe. And the U.S. is basically ceding market share in almost every business that we have. Even devaluing the dollar by half, which would make our goods less expensive for everybody across the globe, and is one of the central tenets of the Project 2025 manifesto, is not going to restore us to the grandeur of the 19th century.
So, and I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of the voters who are associated with the oil industry, they were very supportive of the drill baby drill rhetoric. Do they still feel that's where their support should be? And I know we can't speak for them, but don't you think a lot of them are scratching their heads and saying, how the heck did we get into this situation?
Well, those who work in the oil patch,
right,
put their MAGA hats aside and voted for Harris when they went in because they knew that drill baby drill wasn't going to work. Under the Obama administration, the price of oil was significantly higher than it was under Trump 1.0. And remember, during Trump 1.0, he explicitly stated the price for getting away with murder is cheap oil. And he got that from Saudi Arabia and OPEC. During the Biden administration, the price of oil was significantly higher than Trump 1.0, and we're seeing that now. Drill baby drill was never going to work. The Dallas Fed points out that in its survey at the end of 2024, more than 80% of the respondents weren't going to drill a well if the price of oil was not going to be $70 a barrel or higher going forward. All the forward curves show the price of oil dipping down to 50 before too much longer, and OPEC Plus has geared up production. So now the guys in the oil patch are facing having lost $10 to $20 a barrel of revenue in terms of price. Now Trump has kindly said, well, I'll relieve some of the regulatory requirements, but at most, that's only $5 a barrel. With the 25% steel tariffs, that's increased the cost of some of these big wells in the Permian, the 3-mile laterals, by 15%, because you've got 3 miles of tubulars in the ground. The Texas Rangers are spending a lot of time chasing folks who are stealing tubulars out of new wells, old wells, any yard they can find. And so the independent oil producers in the Permian Basin, where we produce about 4 million barrels a day in Texas, they're facing much higher cost and a prospect of much lower revenue streams.
How do you feel about this whiplash? I know we want to reset. Yeah. We're talking. Tell us who we're talking to.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We're talking with Ed Hers, who's an energy fellow in the Department of Economics at the University of Houston. We're talking about the China-U.S. trade situation, tariff situation. Give us a call with your questions or thoughts at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
And I was asking about this whiplash of the stock market. It's up today. The Dow's right as we speak, it's up 650 points. But every day it's down 1,000, up 1,000, down 1,000, up. How can we sustain that as every single day?
Uncertainty is the enemy of financial markets. And so the greater the level of the uncertainty, the more volatility we're going to see across the financial markets, the price of oil, the price of natural gas, you name it. Big companies in Houston are holding back on their investments right now. They're slowing down their activity. CFOs are just terrified of what the next policy shift is going to be. I've got students working in supply chain all around the city. They've been working 16, 18-hour days trying to figure out, what do I do? My company doesn't manufacture anything here. Our supply chains from China are being disrupted. Mexico disrupted Canada. I mean, poor Canada. The Canadians could fix the trade imbalance very easily. They could cut off the supply of oil to the U.S., the supply of electricity to the U.S., and that would remedy the trade deficit with Canada right away. They could sell their lumber directly to IKEA. They don't have to sell it to us. And that would, of course, explode the myth of U.S. energy independence because we can't backfill that.
We invite you to always share your thoughts and questions with us at 713-440-8870. Steve is on the line from Cyprus. Steve, what's on your mind today?
I was listening to the points your guest made, and when he talks about a lack of expertise and a lack of manufacturing capacity in this country, those are things we should be trying to reverse. We shouldn't capitulate to it and embrace it. Mm-hmm. And as a driver on the road, when you hear the price of oil's down, I hear the price of gasoline is down. And that doesn't make me unhappy.
Steve, we'll get a comment from Ed right now. Thank you for your comments.
No, you're absolutely right. But we have not nurtured our manufacturing for the longest time in the United States. This is not something you can turn on a dime. This is going to cause a complete reordering of the economy. And, of course, one of the reasons the price of gasoline is down is because OPEC has increased production. That's not going to help us in Texas at all. And they did this in 2014, 2015, 2016, ran a price war that sent a lot of the Texas oil patch to the bankruptcy court. We have not spent or had as a national initiative any reason to push our sciences, our STEM learning and teaching going forward. I've been a teacher for undergrads for more than 45 years now. This is something we've neglected. And, taking a look at the voucher system that the Texas State House and the governor want to push, that's going to further deteriorate our teaching and academic standards across Texas. We're not training future generations to run a country.
Ed, we got a call from Raymond. He wants to know, what's your forecast for Trump's tariffs at Christmas?
I have absolutely no way of analyzing that.
Well, it's day to day.
It's day to day. I'm an economist, not a psychiatrist.
Well said. I could use both right now.
Right. I do want to ask you one question about, you mentioned the Baker Hughes and Schlumberger's, our local, very mid-sized, larger oil and gas companies. How is this going to affect them? Obviously, it is hurting them and hitting them. But what does that look like for Houstonians that potentially are sitting there wondering about their job?
Be careful. Keep your resume updated. In this direction, we're going to see layoffs, and they're going to hit the oil field services first. The oil companies out in the Permian are just going to stop drilling. There are layoffs underway right now in terms of the workforce in the fields. That's going to be a challenge. Keep in mind, energy. Oil and gas in particular has been the worst performer across the S&P 500 for more than a dozen years now. No one on Wall Street wants to put money with the oil patch because it just burns it. It doesn't give a great rate of return. And so, given an alternative of investing in Service Corporation, which has a steady business, or a food company or Microsoft, these companies get better rates of return than oil and gas.
The question that I keep bringing up to different economists who sit here and trying to always find the benefit of the doubt in all of this, can you see anywhere in this plan that there is some masterful oversight plan of changing the world order in a way to get us to a better, we see the president saying things like, it's going to be a few rough years, but this is to reorder things so we're in a better position. Do you see a plan that makes that possible?
No.
Well, that was an answer.
Yeah, no, that was my question too. I feel like I'm in quicksand. And, I used to watch Tarzan all the time, and somebody would be in quicksand, remember? And just at the last minute, Tarzan would come and give them a vine, and they would get themselves out.
That's not happening here.
So then what do you think is at play here then?
I really can't say. And I don't think anybody in the current administration knows how this is going to play out. I mean, we had the specter of the U.S. trade representative in front of Congress a week and a half ago, and Trump turned on a dime, and the committee chairman asked him, said,
could our
you didn't know this, did you?
No.
It's just changed in the last 5 minutes.
Well, could Congress come in, could our representatives step in, Republican or Democrat, all of them, and say, look, we've got to fix this because this country is in really bad shape?
Absolutely.
Then why don't they?
They certainly should. I mean, this is actually a 14th Amendment issue. Taxation without due process. The Trump administration is finessing everything they can around the different laws. I mean, going back to things that were passed in the 1700s. I mean, for goodness sake. But the tariffs are a tax. That's something you and I,
it's taxation without representation. It's how we founded this country.
We're all going to be paying this.
Yeah.
And the specter that, I mean, God, the press secretary said, well, tariffs are not a tax. They're a bonus. They're a gift to the American people. I mean, goodness gracious.
Now, some have been saying that, President Trump is a disruptor. This is what he wanted to do. We needed a shakeup in this country. Do you think going this route, looking at tariffs, potentially right now, again, President Trump has said it himself, we might feel it a little bit right now, but in the long run, we are going to be putting the country back in the right direction that we need to be going towards?
There are different ways to change course, and just spinning a ship in the middle of the ocean without any clear direction, without any path forward, is not the way to be doing this.
So if you were his advisor, what would you be telling him to do?
I'd be saying stop this thing, or, without question, he's going to lose the House and the Senate in 2026.
Let me ask you this. Has the damage already been done?
A huge amount of damage has been done. The withdrawal of USAID, which was, our entree to many of the developing nations where we made friends. Well, now we've ceded that to China. We've stepped out. This is isolationism at a level we haven't seen since pre-Depression. Mm-hmm. And then during the Depression with the Smoot-Hawley tariff, the idea that we're totally independent from the rest of the globe is just gone. And this is a nation of immigrants. There's no question that we all have ancestors and friends and family in nations across the world. We're the place everybody wants to come to. We've been able to keep a booming economy mainly because of our net increase in population over the last 5 decades. Europe has a diminished birth rate. Europe has diminished immigration. Europe is dropping away. Russia, ghost cities across it. China, the same thing. Mm-hmm. Inverted population. And so there's a lot of competition right now for dominance on the world stage. And this is the wrong way to go about doing it. We see this in a playground with 5-year-olds, the one who comes over and kicks over the sandcastle or the building blocks and then walks away. That, I'm afraid, is what we're seeing here.
Ed, thank you so much.
Thank you. You make me wish I was in college again.
Well, you don't do that for me. I'm happy to be out, but I do love hearing what you have to say.
Ed Hurst is an energy fellow in the Department of Economics at the University of Houston.